Welcome to my talk today all about leadership, and in particular, how leadership is a skill. And that leadership is a skill and not just a job title, not just a position that you have within the business. My name is Andy Coley. I'm a leadership development trainer. I'm an award-winning TEDx speaker. I'm an author, a coach, and a facilitator. And my book, Leadership is a Skill, is all about how to become a much more effective leader and manager within your business. And I'm going to be sharing some of the lessons that I've learned through the team development, through the thousands of people that I've trained in leadership development over the last 10, 12 years that I've been doing this kind of work. But I'm going to start with a few stats first of all. And some of these might or might not surprise you. Did you know that 82% of leaders and managers have never had any kind of formal training in how to become a leader or a manager? Only 27% of people would actually describe their manager as highly effective. If you're sat with your manager right now, you don't even have to answer, you can answer that one in your head. 49% of people have quit their job because the relationship with their boss or the leaders within their organisation have gone sour. And only 18%, 18% of people trust their manager. That's shocking. Not even 20%, not even 1 in 5 of you in this room at the moment trust your manager. Again, you don't have to answer that one in your head for sure. If we don't trust the people we've got that we're working with, we don't trust the people we have around us, how can we feel psychologically safe? How can we show up and give the best version of ourselves when we're working within an organisation? And it's not necessarily something that your leader knows how to do, because after all, leadership is a skill. It's a skill that does not come with a job title. It's a skill that does not come when you get your first team member, if you get promoted. It's not a superpower. It's not something you just get imbued with all of a sudden just because your job title's changed. Leadership is a skill, and like all skills, it can be learnt. And sometimes you'll get it right. And sometimes you'll suck at it. So I'm going to take you through some of the key elements that I believe are leadership foundations and different aspects I know that as leaders and managers in today's businesses, in today's world, will be so useful for you to become much more aware of. So that first foundation is about emotional intelligence. Now, lots of people talk about emotional intelligence. And the 4 pillars that I want to pay attention to right now are self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, and relationship management. Now, self-awareness is becoming aware of what's going on inside of yourself. Why do some days we turn up or we get an email and it makes us really happy? On other days, we get so frustrated with the team or with the people or the clients. Becoming aware of what happened just before you started to feel a particular way is a key part of emotional intelligence. And when we get that feeling, how do we react or act upon that feeling? So that self-regulation is really key. How do we show up when we're having a great day versus how do we show up when we're not having a great day? The difference between a great day and a rubbish day is never the day. It's the way you show up into the day. So the self-awareness and the self-regulation are really key to that. Then how do you become aware as to what's happening around you? How are your team feeling? What are the individuals like within that team? Whether or not you're remote working or have the opportunity of working face-to-face with people. Becoming aware of the team, the way that their energy is and how they're showing up, it's that social awareness. And then the ability to build good relationships. Be that a conference like this, at networking events, when you're at the office, when you're working remotely with people, talking to them on Discord or Slack or whatever is your thing. How do you build and maintain good rapport and fantastic relationships at work? Whether you're within the team or leading the team. And also, understanding how do we become us. Learning about how we learn. Learning is a really simple equation. Learning is knowledge plus experience. So we find out some knowledge about something. We come on a course, we go to a workshop, we attend a conference, we read a book. And that becomes new knowledge. But until we do something with the knowledge, that's when the learning really starts to happen. And the thing that loops it back round is feedback. What worked well, and what would I do differently the next time around? Because when you've understood what you do well, or what you did well, and what you would change the next time around, that suddenly becomes new knowledge that you can then do something with the next time around, that becomes new learning. So each of us are going through lots of different stages of learning. In fact, there are 4 steps to learn. We start off unconsciously incompetent. Like we don't know what we don't know. Then we become consciously incompetent. We start learning it, but we're still a bit rubbish at it. Till we become consciously competent. We're getting better, but we still have to think about it a little bit until we can just do it. We become unconsciously competent. Anything you learn, from the skills of leadership, to riding a bike, to using a mobile phone, you've gone through those 4 steps to learning. So just recognize learning is an iterative process that you're going to keep going through. So when you become aware of how you learn at your best, then suddenly you can start to think about, well, how do I see the world? How do I see things differently to the people around me? And for me, that's where the power of neuro-linguistic programming really comes in. Now, NLP, for me, is about the study of the way the mind works, how you take in and process information, how that information becomes your version of the world that you're experiencing, and then how we represent or represent that back through the words that we use, through our body language, and of course the end result of those are our behaviours. So what you think ultimately decides how you feel, that then affects what you do. And from an NLP perspective as a leader, how does your leadership and how has your leadership been affected by the shadows that have been cast upon you? Who here in the past has had some really good leaders? By the way, if you're sat with one, that's a good time to put your hand up. Or who here, if you put your hand up, has had some really bad leaders? Quite a smattering of both. And we can learn lots from the good leaders and the bad leaders. When I did a degree, I worked at IBM, and I had a fantastic leader in the department that I worked for. Now, I worked in the research team, and she and our department head had about 80 people in the team. She was directly the people manager. She wasn't expected to do any output. She was there to help to guide the projects and keep them on track. And she had everybody from me as somebody doing a degree course right at the beginning of their career journey, all the way through to those that have been at IBM pretty much since the dawn of computing. I mean, we still had card machines at IBM when I started in the late 90s. And she was able to keep each of us on track. For those that have been there 30, 40 years, to myself, just getting started out. She was a great leader, able to change her leadership style to suit the team and the project and the people. Versus a not so good leader that I once had the experience of observing. Thankfully, I wasn't in his team. It was a sales director. Sorry to the sales directors out there. I'm sure this isn't you. But his way of motivating the team was, if they weren't doing very well in that month or that week for sales, he would come in and he'd give them a growl in the beginning for their morning motivation session. And he would tell them they were not allowed to sit at their seats, at their desks, until they'd made their first sale. Now, for some of them, those motivated through competition, or I don't know if you've seen the TV show Billions, you know, those really competitive types that want to improve or want to impress the boss. They're the ones that really get motivated by that kind of machoistic stuff. And I remember going back up to that floor 3 or 4 hours later. There was one poor guy who wasn't even able to make a sale for a packet of DVDs. He was still stood at his desk, basically almost sobbing on the phone, just wishing that somebody would buy his stuff. That's not motivation. That's embarrassment. Do you think that person loved that leader they worked for? No, they quit. 2-3 months later, they found a different job in a different place. So whether you've had good leaders or bad leaders in your life, all of those will have had an impact, will be casting a shadow. In the same way that you will be casting a shadow upon the teams that you have. So if your team isn't necessarily doing what you might want it to do, or performing in the way you'd love it to perform, sometimes that little bit of self-awareness and self-reflection can be useful. How might I be influencing the way that the team is responding? And also know that you can change it. Shift happens. The F is in there deliberately. Shift happens. You can change your mindset at any time. And this is where transformative leadership really starts to kick in. That ability to be able to transform the way that we show up into the world. First of all, how mature is your team? Yeah, there's research out there that looks at how do teams come together. New teams have to form and get together and get to know each other, and generally people are on pretty good terms to start off with. Then we know that things get a little bit rocky. They start to storm. Yeah, as the relationships be and the egos and I think I should probably be doing that bit of work. And who are you to say that you should be in that position? So the team has to go for a little bit of a stormy patch until they work out what is their normal way of operating. So that's the norms. And ultimately the team end up performing. Now, if you bring somebody new into the team, into the organization at the bottom, at a lower level, like an apprentice or a junior, they're probably not going to rock the boat too much. You change the CEO, that's quite likely to have big repercussions and big ripples through the organization. So how mature is your team? How well are they bonded together at this moment in time right now? And each team and each project requires a different approach. There's a fantastic model by Joe Chill of Imaginarium. I can't even get the name of the thing right. I'm just blowing words. There's a fantastic model by Joe Chill called the 3 E's model that looks at when you're leading teams, you need to be in 3 different phases within the team. So first of all, you need to be able to set expectations. What is expected from the project? What's expected by the individuals? How do they need to show up? Then what you do is you want to create engagement within the team. So be able to create the space and be able to create the performance that people are getting engaged within the team, working within the team, supporting the team, coaching the team, until finally you can get out of the way and you create an empowerment within the team. And if you set the expectations properly, if you created the engagement and you've got the empowerment, this is where performance happens. And when you're looking at leadership in action, you want to be able to change your leadership style to suit those 3 different phases, the expectations, the engagement, and the empowerment. So when it comes to being able to do that, first of all, in order to set the expectations, you need to be in control mode. You need to be at the center of things. Before moving into a support role and being a part of the team, until getting out of the way and heading into trust mode. And of course, depending on the project, the person, the phase, the maturity of the team, what the team's doing, how much is new, what's just come along, what emergencies are happening, will depend on whereabouts you need to sit on that little bit of leadership matrix. Because setting expectations within the control phase, this is all about managing the expectations, setting the direction. You need to be in this mode if there's an emergency, or if the project's new, if you're going through into the next phase or the next part of the development. That's when you need to be able to set the expectations. The engagement is about being amongst the team, showing them how to do it, showing them that you can do it, supporting them, mentoring them, making sure the team have got all the tools and knowledge necessary to be able to keep that work going. Before heading into the empowerment phase. The empowerment phase is all about the trust, letting them get on with it. Now, of course, each of these phases has problems with it as well. If you stay in engagement all the time, if you stay in that control mode, then basically you'll be accused of being a micromanager. If you end up being in support mode too much, it's like, well, they're one of the team. They're not really leading us. And if you're too much in trust mode, it's like, well, where's my manager gone? I might as well just not bother being here. So you need to be able to flex your leadership style depending on the project and the stage. And then one of my biggest passions, because it has meant so much to me in my life, is creating a coaching culture. Coaching and supporting and mentoring other people to be able to come up with their ways of moving forward. And I define coaching versus mentoring as 2 slightly different things. I think coaching is basically working with somebody to get to the extent through which they're able to do as much as they possibly can themselves, come up with their own ideas, come up with their own ways forward, with you guiding them and asking them questions and being with them to support them in that process. Versus mentoring, which is once you've coached them to that stage, now you're coming and giving advice. You're giving your skill, you're giving your experience, you're giving new knowledge to be able to then start to learn with. And don't be afraid to notice the impact of small adjustments. James Clear in his book Atomic Habits talks about the power of the 1%. If we get 1% better tomorrow than we are today, and then another % better after that, and another % better the day after, and that % better could be in our thinking, our behaviours, the way we show up, what we do, how the team operates, all of those tiny 1% add up. So if you got 1% better every day of the year, it's quite a big ask, but if you were to get 1% better every day of the year, by the end of the year, you are 38 times better because of the power of compounding. Because every 1% is getting better than the 1% and the 1% of the 1% before. So just be aware of that power of compounding. The tiny changes soon add up. As a coach, you should be able to really learn how to listen, ask good questions, and wait. Wait, by the way, in my world stands for why am I talking? Often, as a coach, you're like, I know the answers. I just want to shortcut them. I want to get them there. But remember, the way you learnt was through knowledge and experience. And if you just try and shortcut that straight to somebody else, are they learning? Not quite so easily. There are times when you should definitely step in and mentoring and help them take shortcuts. But other times, you need to be able to delegate and just get out of their way. Delegation, by the way, tell somebody what you want, when you need it by, why it's important. Let them come up with a how. Because that's where the learning happens. And if people own their own outcomes, they know what's expected of them, you know you've got the engagement, and you can get out of their way, then they'll own it, they'll do it, they'll do more of it. And they'll have that growth mindset rather than the fixed mindset. And finally, what needs to happen? If there's a problem, what's stopping them? What's getting in the way of something performing and happening? Now, there are lots of other key leadership skills that I've not got a chance to share from the stage today, but these are definitely areas that I feel that you should be able to work on. Managing conflict and looking at change. How you show up into a conflict or how change gets handled or pre-framed is so important within teams. That you support the growth in other people because that enables you to grow as well. There's nothing better than seeing all those little seedlings that you've been watering and nurturing and feeding just suddenly start to grow and get even better. And you as a professional person, your persona, how you network, how you get your name out there, how you find your next role if that's important to you. Or maybe in the past you've been made redundant and actually getting the role you're in now only happened because of the network of people that you have in this room. And your ability to be able to reflect and plan ahead, get visionary. What is it you want to have happen? So for me, leadership is a skill and not a position. Thank you.